I can barely hear you. You have to mean it.
Teach me about bazongas!
Whoa! Don't go shouting things like that!
When looking back at the modern Tales franchise, Tales of Xillia occupies a fascinating space in the genre's history. For players coming off of the narrative highs like a game of Tales of Berseria, which arguably stands as the pinnacle of the series in almost every facet of storytelling and character writing, Xillia might not match the same level of dark, cohesive perfection. However, beneath its rushed final act and fragmented dual protagonist structure lies a deeply compelling world, a brilliantly utilized combat system, and a phenomenal cast anchored by one of the best antagonists of JRPG history. At its core, Xillia tackles themes of environmentalism and resource consumption, visualized through the stark contrast between nations. The game brilliantly juxtaposes advanced societies that ruthlessly siphon energy from mana and spyrix against more traditional old-fashioned societies that refuse to abuse the spirits. The environmental design reflects this dichotomy beautifully. While Jude's hometown of Laronde possesses a visually cute rustic charm and Sherrilton stands out with its majestic windmills, the sci-fi inspired city of Fenmont provides a breathtaking aesthetic that hooks the player immediately. But the world building truly shines when the narrative pulls the curtain back on the Schism. Finally crossing over to Olympios is a massive payoff, completely satisfying that craving for a high sci-fi aesthetic, and immediately building the anticipation for Xillia 2. When comparing this dual-world structure to other games in the franchise, Xillia handles the transition with far more grace than Tales of Arise. In Arise, the shift from Dana to Rena is executed poorly, making the story feel as though it has already reached a satisfying conclusion long before the actual credits roll. Xillia, by contrast, may rush its ending, but it introduces Olympios with enough intrigue that it never ruins the foundation of its own premise. The transition between these two worlds is supported by a gameplay loop that physically demands more from the player as the stakes rise. The dual-ray linear motion battle system is a massive highlight. In the early hours, players can comfortably get by with rudimentary button mashing, but by the time the game hits its infamous Act 3 difficulty spike, the game forces you to stop, plan, and think through every encounter. The Link art system heavily encourages this experimentation, rewarding players with unique victory screen quips that make trying new team compositions incredibly fun. Yet the combat truly sings when Jude and Mila are linked together. Their synergy in battle is a perfect example of Ludonarrative synchronicity. As they grow closer narratively, their mechanical ability to fight as a singular, cohesive unit is completely unparalleled. The audio presentation accompanying these battles is a bit of a mixed bag. While Motoi Sakuraga's town themes tend to blend together into a homogeneous background noise, the standout tracks can carry the experience. The battle music, the energetic opening theme, and the unforgettable jazz music playing on the Olympios airship inject the exact right atmosphere into the game's most pivotal moments. While the gameplay keeps the pace moving, the deeply flawed, beautifully written characters carry the emotional weight of the experience. Choosing Jude as the primary POV is almost essential. As a somewhat oblivious medical student, he allows the player to learn and grow alongside him. Mila, meanwhile, operates as the true driving force of the plot. Through the game's attempt to frame her as a Jesus allegory doesn't entirely stick the landing, her slow burn romance with Jude absolutely does. Her initially robotic demeanor softens as she spends time with the party, highlighted by her jealousy when Jude tethers with another spirit.
Since we were together constantly, he was able to fill me with loads of mana.
I had no idea you were that kind of man.
Mila, wait! Why is she so angry?
I can't believe you'd ask me to explain that to you. Do you just want to hear me say it? Is that what you're into?
This relationship reaches a heartbreaking climax following Mila's sacrifice to save the party from the lands of Kresnik. In the aftermath, Jude falls into a deep, visceral depression. In one of the game's most understated but powerful scenes, Leia lovingly makes him a meal, only for a grieving, angry Jude to knock it out onto the floor.
I was able to get in touch with Rowan and Elise, but nobody seems to be able to get a hold of Alvin.
Don't. Just stop.
Again? Jude, you gotta stop doing this. If you keep this up, we're gonna run out of food. I'll make you some more. Be right back.
Instead of screaming at him, Leia calmly picks it up, gently warns him that they will run out of food if he keeps doing that, and goes to make him another plate. It perfectly encapsulates Jude overwhelming despair while highlighting just how wildly he underappreciates Leia's steadfast devotion. The supporting cast is equally layered, shining brightest as their darkest secrets are revealed. Elise's backstory is nothing short of devastating. Through the exploration of the Labari Hollow, players discover the horrific illegal experiments she endured. Scientists forcibly enlarged her mana lobe to drastically increase her spirit art potential, implanting the Tipo doll with a booster to regulate her immense dark powers. Tipo isn't just a mascot for rudimentary bazongas humor. He acts as a manifestation of Elise's repressed subconscious, voicing the unfiltered aggressive thoughts as she is too traumatized to express. Returning to the Maud Highlands to find the flowers planted by her late parents is a gut punch that grounds her character in a profound tragedy. Then there's Alvin, operating as the party's Lando Calrissian. Alvin is a man so burned by his past as an outsider that he preemptively betrays his friends before they can betray him. While players expect him to be slimy, the narrative crosses a shocking line when he actually shoots Leia. It is a moment of genuine disbelief, proving he was actually out for blood. Yet as he slowly realizes that he has found a genuine family in Jude and the others, his redemption arc hits incredibly hard, especially when the tragic depths of his mother's illness and his letters to Pressa are finally brought to light. Where Xillia ultimately cements its legacy is in its villains. Spearheaded by the unmatched King Gaius, in a genre historically plagued by final bosses driven by grandiose delusions, fragile egos, and maniacal laughter, Gaius is a breath of fresh air. He's driven purely by pragmatic motivation, protecting his nation and securing a future for his people. He relies on logical methods rather than malice and holds no god complex. Most importantly, he is entirely open to being proven wrong if a better practical solution is presented. He respects his opponents and shares their ultimate goal of helping humanity. This grounded logical foundation allows him to transition seamlessly into a fish-out-of-water ally in the sequel. The supporting antagonists act as perfect foils for the main party. Pressa's complicated romantic history with Alvin adds immense narrative weight, while Agria steals scenes with her bug-like, erratic movements and hilarious dismissive dialogue, such as telling Leia she simply reeks instead of answering her questions.
Please, you want to destroy it for the same reason we do, right? 'Cause it's dangerous? You reek.
Adding to the villainous roster is Musette, a brilliant inclusion who serves as a dark yang to Mila, a powerful spirit who simply loses her mind without a master to anchor her. For all of its narrative strengths, Xillia is visibly hindered by its development constraints. While the dual-ray linear motion battle system combat is fantastic, the Lilium Orb progression system feels largely superficial, visualizing stats in a way reminiscent of Final Fantasy XIII, without actually reflecting character growth. More pressingly, the decision to split the game into a dual protagonist structure actively harms the overall narrative, fragmenting a story that would have been much stronger as a single linear journey. This rush of development becomes painfully obvious in Act 3, where Act 2 allows its intricate political and emotional storytelling room to breathe. Act 3 completely abandons that pacing, devolving into a breathless, exhausting boss rush that races to the finish line. Tales of Xillia may not reach the flawless, dark storytelling heights of Tales of Berseria, and its rush ending certainly leaves something to be desired, but its flaws are thoroughly eclipsed by its incredible character writing. Between Elise's heartbreaking origins, Alvin's shocking portrayals, the slow burn connection between Jude and Mila, and a purely pragmatic antagonist who redefines what a JRPG villain could be, Xillia remains an endlessly fascinating sci-fi infused chapter in the Tales legacy.